Hi everyone, welcome back to the Celts Are Here podcast. It's Declan joined by Quinny. It's the morning after the night before as we're recording here, Quinny. I've told you just before we went on, I'm absolutely knackered. I'm shattered after a visit to Dingwall, but it was well worth it. 4-1 Celtic in the League Cup through the quarter-finals. We need to travel to Fir Park. Overall, what was your thoughts in the victory?
It was a great game. I was quite surprised at how many changes we had. Like I did a little kind of preview to the match, and it was only going to be one of two things. It was either going to be like wholesale changes, basically like we've seen, or it might have been a wee bit of just keeping the main squad like ticking over and whatever. And the overall match, like I came away from the game, and I'm a huge optimist, as anyone will know, but I'm coming away from that game thinking that team would win the league, that we played last night, So great confidence must be buzzing through the camp at the moment. Obviously, we have a big week ahead. So yeah, I really enjoyed the game. Great performance from the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. The squad was certainly, I think, that the word to be in everybody's tip of their tongue. And it is a big week for Celtic. Obviously, 6 days between the visit up to Dingwall, which we've got through. We've got the Derby game at the weekend, and you've got that very tasty clash against the European champions next Tuesday evening at Celtic Park. You say there that you think that team would probably be able to win the league. I had a look at it going up when it came out, and midfield to front, I really thought that could play against anybody in the league. You could actually play that in the Champions League. You'd actually be pretty much happy with it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, it's definitely stronger than some other Champions League squads that we've ran with in the past, so it definitely wouldn't be out of place in that sense, And, with Haksabanovic coming in, obviously we had Maeda still playing last night, and McGregor started in that more kind of attacking role with Moyes sitting. And that was one of the things that I loved about the game is you watched it, obviously got his goal quite early in the match, but as you watched the game going on, it was like he was like shaking the ring rust off, and he was like, oh, this is what it's like to go into the final third and try and make things happen rather than being the metronome, as you put it, like making the ball move from side to side and making everything tick, So that was one of the things I was actually really buzzing to see was McGregor kind of wake up again to, how much talent he's got going forward for this team.
Yeah, and obviously did wake up. He got that first goal for Celtic, got us off to a good start. And I thought he played very, very well in there in midfield. It was, a kind of typical McGregor performance you'd have maybe seen 4 or 5 years ago under Brendan Rodgers, wasn't it? Getting forward, getting his goal. And again, I think it was really important that even though Ange made 9 changes to the team, Quinna, that you keep your captain in there. I think there needs to be a real continuality in there when you do that. And you could see that last night that he is that team's leader. And everything that Celtic do well, comes through Callum McGregor, and that's why he needs to be in that team. And, maybe people would have said, I think Andrew's been on record before saying nobody's going to play 50 games a season, but I think it's just probably too early on in the season to think about, leaving McGregor out for a game, because I think, Callum McGregor just flies. We have as many games come, but we're, early August here. Early September now. And he's going to obviously play a lot of football, but we've managed to not have Champions League qualifiers, which we've usually had to go through, so that'll have saved the legs a bit. But he's going to be obviously featuring the Champions League for Celtic, where we fight in all fronts. So would you agree with that? That it is important to have McGregor in there playing? He's the club captain, he's the team captain, and it's just a continuality problem needing your team when you're going to make so many changes.
Yeah, he's a huge part of the personality on the team. And on that kind of same kind of note, like when he came off, James Forrest was the one that took the armband, and fair enough. The whole side at that point is basically, for lack of a better term, second string, but they're all very much capable of pushing into the first 11. But I thought that was quite telling. We spoke about Forrest and his potential kind of role at the club, getting that new contract last year and being like the word we were using last time, thinking about him and some other people we'll probably come on to talk to in this podcast is being useful. And last night he was very useful, and in games like that, he can be like, he didn't look out of pace. He didn't look out of step with the team, with the game or anything. And him taking the armband on as well was a nice kind of, because between those two guys, they are us on the pitch, really, in terms of that squad, in terms of the fan, the guy that grew up watching the games, knowing what it means. And those are the guys away to Dingwall that you need that personality, you need that character of the club to be present on the pitch. Because otherwise, on that Yakaviti, how many goals does he score against us, man? You get something like that runs against the play, and if you don't have that personality to kind of rally, it could go the other way.
No, absolutely. But let's come on to James Forrest because I think that's a nice link into him. Obviously, he got his goal last night, 98 goals, 99 assists for Celtic. He's nearing the 100 mark in both. I think that was his goal last night meant that he'd scored in 14 consecutive seasons for Celtic. I don't think there's many players in Celtic history or British football with that type of record. So, hats off to him for that. But
Yep.
as you say, Quinny, I read Ange Postecoglou's comments. Um, Obviously watching Open Goal when we spoke about Forrest, and he says,
Yep.
he's a big part of the culture that we're creating here. And I thought that was really, really telling into what you were saying there. That when you have a squad that has so many different international players that come from, from Japan and Vickers, American international, Bernabeu in there from Argentina and whatnot. Something it's always good to have that base, that foundation of homegrown talent in there, and people who for lack of a better expression, get the club. I don't doubt that all the new guys do get the club. You can see that last night, at the end of the game, Kyogo's jumping about mad, having not came on, but, celebrating with the team. He
Yeah.
went over to every Celtic player to congratulate him. But I think that homegrown talent in there is very, very important. And guys like James Forrest in and around the club at this point in time, when we're building something special, I keep saying that under Ange Postecoglou, I think this is a special team. It's important that you've got your Callum McGregor's, James Forrest, and Tony Ralston's in and about the place.
Yeah. And yeah, totally. I think as well with what we've seen with the squad yesterday, like, because we've spoken about before, and you've quoted them there, like no one's going to play like 50 games this season or whatever, and you need to keep all those guys on side. And seeing like Kyogo not getting a minute and being absolutely buzzing like that, we've seen other members of the squad do that to this point this season, and there's a wee bit of human nature in you. It maybe thinks they're just pulling in the same direction, or just doing it because that's just the good teammate thing to do. But when you see like somebody like Kyogo, actually it pours out, it's actual genuine, that team bond and that philosophy of, yeah, we are going to have 50, 55 games. And you know what, if most of us can average around 25 to 30, then we're all going to be happy and we're all going to be really successful. And last night is a real proof in the pudding for those players that might need to be a bit more patient, like Ralston, Bernabeu, Forrest, whoever, Abada, potentially Giacomakis. So, as I say, I think it's a great victory for the camp, because everyone now, as we look into the game at the weekend, as well as obviously next week, everyone feels like they're a part of it. And that's, the beginning of something really special.
Yeah, and you're driving towards a kind of an end goal of those big Champions League games, which every footballer, whether it be Celtic, Manchester United, or whatever, wants to play at the top level and compete against the top teams. So you're driving towards something, and as you say, I think knowing that you're going to get 25 to 30 games a season, I think James Forrest will probably be averaging maybe 10 to 15 games a season.
Yep.
He's probably going to be quite happy with that, but he's placed in the squad because he's looking around himself, much like probably Owen Moffat was looking around himself at the guys in front of him and thinking, I'm not likely to get in this team. Obviously, young Moffat at a very different stage of his career compared to James Forrest. James Forrest coming towards what would be the tail end of his football career. He's 31 or whatever now. And it's just about, keeping everybody, getting game time into the field. I was going to say keeping everybody happy there, but Ange's already said, it's not his job to do that. And if they're not happy already at Celtic, then it's a case of beat it.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a great thing that he's not going to be compromised by anybody at the football club. If he doesn't think somebody's pulling their weight in training, it's him that watches him every day in training. He knows what he's getting from his group of football players. It's just a case of moving them on it and out the door. But we will get on to transfers to come later. But touching on last night again, Tony Ralston, much was made about his season last year, about how good he was, and he absolutely deserved those plaudits. But last night he comes in, Quinny, I think it was his first start this season competitively, and 2 assists. The boy just doesn't stop, literally.
It was fantastic last night, and I was saying actually in the build up to the game that like Juranovic has had a good season so far, right? But if you remember Juranovic through these matches, like the first half of almost every game, he's been anonymous, and he's had really good second halves. And Ralston, like in his head going into that game, he's obviously thinking, if I have a solid 90, because he'll be looking at Juranovic the same way as I do, in the sense that like the impact he's had on the match, and he'll be thinking to himself, can I get ahead of this guy? And he's definitely done himself no harm at all. Hit the ground running in a big way. I think he came off the bench against Aberdeen for 5 or 10 minutes, first game of the season, and we've not seen him since. So great testament to the condition he's keeping himself in and the motivation he's got to keep pushing Juranovic. And he really believes, again, that he can break into that team. And when you've got that in every position, the squad's just such a healthy place there now.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, because he's pushing him. It's not just about, what Tony Nelson does for his Celtic. He's keeping Juranovic on his toes,
Yep.
and it gives the manager that great confidence, Quinny, that he can do what he did last night and make 9 changes and know that every one of them will come in, step up and perform. Because I think to a man last night, even though maybe Celtic had that wee lull in the second half until it went 2-1, it kind of sprung us back into action. To a man, I thought Celtic were excellent last night. What was your thoughts on Alexander Bernabeu? It was obviously his competitive debut for Celtic too. Everything that's gone before in the press and whatnot about him. But I thought he came in and did well. I think he's still very raw at 21. I think there's still a bit to go in terms of his development. But it was a bit frightening, I think, for the old Ross County team when they had that pace going down that left side with Maeda and Bernabeu. I think it's just going to be a case of him getting used to how Celtic play and getting into that rhythm and groove again. But I thought he was fairly okay last night.
He was very eager to please, and even I think I seen him take 2 or 3 long shots that were absolute no hopers, but he had a smile on his face the whole game. He didn't stop running, didn't stop trying, and he'll know the stage of his development. He'll have the conversations with the manager, etc. And that match for him last night will do him the world of good, because Ross County away, as we said when we played them in the league, for guys like Jens and whoever else came in, that's a great kind of testing ground to get you acclimatise to the division, what's expected away from home, how much, how many yards of space, how much time you actually get on the ball. So he didn't light the world up. He was desperate to score a worldie, a big Galazzo or something. But yeah, I'd say borderline pass marks, for enthusiasm, if nothing else.
Yeah, there was a moment actually, it was in the first half, and it was County player had went down and he managed to win the ball inside the penalty box. Really, really good tackle, and he was giving it that to the Celtic fans, a big yee-haw. So.
Yeah.
As you say, I think, he certainly got it. He was eager to please last night, and it's just going to be a case of him probably getting up to speed with how Celtic play. You could see that even in the pre-season when Ange seemed to have picked him out to be shouting instructions at what he's probably looking for from him. But again, that'll do him the world of good to get game time into his legs as we start to progress into this season. One man who we cannot not talk about is Aaron Moy. I thought he was absolutely outstanding last night, Quinny. He just does everything so simple, very, very cool in there, picks a pass every single time. And, I think over the course of this season, he's going to turn out to be a really, really important player for Celtic.
Yeah, and he definitely is. He's definitely been on a nice kind of progression over his minutes and his appearances so far this season, and getting a start where he knows he can come in. He's still got McGregor next to him. Turnbull obviously is really pushing to get starts and all the rest of it. So a really motivated midfield, and seeing him in the middle, it was very composed. And I've seen a lot of people making him man of the match on the night and stuff like that. And it's great to see that he's delivering on what the manager signed him for, because the manager obviously has more of an idea of his profile than any of us on him coming in, and it just gives I was thinking this with the transfer business that's kind of knocking around now, and I'm sure we'll get to that in time, but the dynamic in the midfield is really, really changing with Moy, as well as the main 3 that we see at the now of Rio, Kalmak and O'Reilly, with Haksabanovic coming in, who talks himself up as a bit of a number 10. Turnbull knocking around. Ideguchi's fell off the face of the map, but he's still in the manager's thoughts somehow, you would think. So yeah, I think Moy gives us lots of amazing problems for the midfield, because throughout this season so far, since the whole Turnbull, O'Reilly and Rio thing was kind of ironed out a game or 2 ago in terms of fitness and who the manager's going to opt for, it's been kind of copy and paste, and I don't think the manager likes that for any length of time. I think he wants everyone thinking, who's he picking this week in terms of the players? So I think Moy is a great cat amongst the pigeons in that sense, to keep all the mids on their toes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when you've got that 5 subs rule as well, he's one of those players that you can use throughout the season. He's definitely a great sub to bring on, and he will get starts in game time for Celtic. You saw his quality up at Tannadice with that ball that he pinged over the top, which is just, if the Dundee United team weren't already demoralised, that was the killer pass. It just wiped the whole team out. And the mind he gets the ball over for a bad, I think that's his hat-trick goal, actually. I think he'll be a really, really good player. And I think looking through Celtic signings, we will obviously get on to transfers, Quinny. To get him in a free was, I think, a really good bit of business for Celtic. I don't have any clue of what wages he'll be on. I'd imagine his Premier League wages down at Brighton and Huddersfield were fairly tidy. I imagine it'll be a decent sum up at Celtic, but I think he's almost turned into the player that everybody thought James McCarthy might have been.
Yeah.
And to get him in a free, because I think had the COVID situation in China not had happened, and maybe hadn't brought him over from Shanghai Port or something, we
Mhm.
signed Aaron Moy from. You would probably be looking at somewhere between £4 and £6 million for this boy.
Yeah, you'd definitely be knocking around there for a transfer fee because, yeah, just because of the profile of the player, international and Premier League experience, and even if you were to like downplay him, he's an upper level Championship player. If you were to downplay him in that sense, he's obviously been a Prem player, and like the only reason I know this, and I don't know if I speak for any other Celtic fans that are listening to this, but the only reason I really know Aaron Moy is like 5 or 6 FIFAs ago, he had some sick inform cards, and he was like 2-footed, and he could shoot from 40 yards and all that, and obviously some of the appearances he made in the Prem that got him those cards, scoring some goals and whatever. But he's definitely proved himself to be one of these guys that kind of does in reality what you think he'll do on paper. He's strong, he's composed, and like I said before, he is 2-footed. But you notice him on the ball, he does favour his right, but that left and his right, both of them have got range. And yeah, it's just cool, calm, and can find a pass. And because of the strength he's got in the SPL, or the SPFL, whatever we're calling it these days, when we're in our kind of defensive third, just even that strength alone is a big difference to making the difference in breaking up a play, and then being able to have somebody almost John McGuinness who can stick their backside out a bit, protect the ball for 2 seconds, and then play a pass to somebody who's got the legs and got the space to move into. Is it ticks so many boxes for us in terms of, like I said a moment ago, what we can do in midfield, because McGregor playing in that more advanced position last night puts further pressure on Turnbull, Rio and O'Reilly, because they're all kind of vying for similar spots. So by introducing Moy and then maybe anyone else who transfers in, McGregor then puts added positional pressure on everyone else, and McGregor's the captain. He's going to play most of the games, so that's a real threat to unlock these guys minutes if Moy is going to start collecting minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point in that one. And when he does come in like last night, Aaron Moy performance like that isn't going to do him any issue. I thought he played very, very well. As you say, Quinny, he comes in, he does everything you'd expect him to do, and he's reliable. And again, looking towards the World Cup, he's going to be champing on that door. He's going to be wanting to be one of those guys that are playing for Australia. Very important player for Australia over the course of his career, and he'll be hoping to get game time in his legs for that. So yeah, I think that's a good point that, didn't do himself any harm last night coming in there, and possibly the manager might look at it. I know it's only one game, but I think some people's fears were probably that playing McGregor in that deeper role meant that we got that quick rotation from back to front, really, if you will. But I thought it worked perfectly well last night, but just with the way Moy can spray the ball around, if you get the ball to him, he'll pick that pass, whether it's to one of the fullbacks coming inside or out to the winger or not. So yeah, it's a good dilemma to have for Ange Postecoglou, and it looks as though Celtic will be adding somebody else into that position, but we will come on to him very, very shortly. Big Jacko, again, much like Kyogo, comes in, gets a goal. The two of them are firing, and as much as I would say that Kyogo's the better striker, the two of them both are pushing, and they continue to score goals in it, so you can really ask from a striker.
Yeah, I thought Giakoumakis' style really suited having Moy and McGregor. Like, Moy's much more brave from a deeper position to play a long pass. McGregor, if McGregor ever frustrates a Celtic fan, it's because he plays so many short passes and build up. But Moy was quite quick anyway. With McGregor being further forward, those passes, he was zipping the ball right into Giakoumakis' feet, and he was finding them really quickly. And Giakoumakis previously, if you watch some of his other Celtic games back, he gets quite frustrated at not being found quick and early into feet when he's like maybe pushed off a defender and bought a few yards. And McGregor was reading that really well. So we do get this real duality in the squad of types of ways we can attack, as well as the types of players we can have attacking, if that makes sense. So I thought Giakoumakis played really well, and I thought McGregor and Turnbull really helped Giakoumakis be involved in this match a bit more than some other matches that he started, because other guys, maybe like Rio and Jota and Maeda and whatever, they want to maybe take a few more touches and build it up and let's all get into the final 18, and then we'll try and slice the team open. Whereas Giakoumakis wants to take 1 or 2 touches and get a shot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's just one of those kind of penalty box strikers, I would call him, that he just wants to do that. And you could see that from the amount of goals that he scored with one-touch finishes for Celtic initially. So he's deadly. And again, as I say, what else can you do but score goals for the manager? And I'd be pleased at that again. And I think he took a wee slight knock, but it looked okay when he came out for the second half. So hopefully there's no issues there. As I said earlier on, Quinny, at 2-0 would be. I thought we maybe dropped off a wee bit in the second half until County scored, and then back in. Maida gets that goal. I think at 3-1, everybody knew it was definitely over. But again, a player like that, he's just always alert and wanting to get in there. And I thought that was good from Celtic last night. Although I say we maybe switched off a wee bit in the second half, we got the job done. And when you make 9 changes, and we made a hell of a lot of substitutes. Obviously, Haksabanovic also coming on for his debut. Another couple of boys making their debut. There's just not much more you can ask for. One up in Dingwall is a great score. Never mind making 9 changes to the team.
Totally. I kind of put that down to a wee bit of the, that's the difference in standard, I feel like, from, again, just for, no other words to be used, but for the best 11 versus 11 we had out last night, is that lull maybe doesn't happen for another 10 minutes. If it's Rio and O'Reilly and McGregor in midfield with Jota and Kyogo up front, that lull happens to every team in a match at some point. But the level we've got to is by the time we are making subs, we are not hitting that lull anymore. We're making subs and it's like we're still on the ascendancy in a match. Whereas last night, the subs really rescued the momentum in the squad, bringing guys that are just as keen as mustard to go on and press, like Haksabanovic and Forrest and whatever, brought that kind of tempo back into the game. So, yeah, it was one of those ones that was interesting to see. But I think my thoughts were at the time, just when I was watching that, this is what's different on the training. Whatever the difference is in reality, that's how in terms of what they do at training or application of talent or whatever, that's the real difference on a match day, is that lull happens 10, 15 minutes earlier than what it would with the other guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. And again, as I say, it's good victory. As long as you get through in the cup, it was a long enough bus journey down the road last night. Never mind had it went to extra time. So just glad to get the game over and done with in 90 minutes and the victory too. And obviously we'll play Motherwell. I think that's the 18th or 19th of October for that game scheduled. So big Celtic support will be there behind the goal, and hopefully we get a good result there. But obviously Motherwell's in a good bit of form just now. So a team we're yet to face this season, but we'll see what that's like when that game rolls round. Let's go into transfer business.
Right.
We talk just now on deadline day. There's under 12 hours to go until the window slams shut. Obviously that extension due to Celtic and other teams playing last night in the League Cup. There's nobody else to start but Oliver Abildgaard, I think that's how you pronounce his surname, Quinny. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you'd probably be a wee bit more up to date with this than me, but yesterday I'd got a wee bit of wind of this, and it looked as though it had legs. I found it really interesting looking back at articles about Haksabanovic, and he was the other guy mentioned alongside him, and even then I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. Why is his name being mentioned by the chief executive here alongside Haksabanovic? And he'll before you know it, there he's there. And news came this morning from Fabrizio Romano that looked as if a deal was done and he'd be heading to Celtic. Just initially, Quinny, what's your thoughts on this one? I'm just going to refer to him as Oliver, because if I've absolutely butchered his name, I don't want anybody to slag me. So he's getting referred to as Oliver for the time being.
My guess would be Abildgaard.
Abildgaard, okay.
That'd be my guess.
Okay.
But I'm happy to call him Build-A-Bear or Build-A-Defence or whatever we want to call him. But no, it's a great move. And as you say with the Ruben Kazan thing, like Celtic and the kind of the people that pull the strings with transfers, they love to go back to the well. If something works, they'll go and try it again. The amount of times we went to Israel to buy players, and after it worked out that one time, it's been something. And obviously Japan last year worked out the first time, so we went back and got another couple. So I think the whole Ruben Kazan, Russia geopolitical situation financially has really kicked the door open. And I don't really know the whole ins and outs of it, because by all accounts, you can't really be sending money to Russia and all the rest of it. So if we found some sort of way of doing business with this outfit and we're able to take out, because the thing with Russia, as we said about Haksabanovic and Starfelt, is Russia to like Scandinavia and like the lower ends of like, kind of Eastern European football is the Premier League in terms of the money they can earn and, getting into European spots, Champions League and Europa League and whatever. So it's definitely sorry, you go.
Much like Eddie McGeady and that move over there, he probably made an absolute fortune when he moved to Russia.
Yeah, big time, you know. So going back and picking their pocket isn't exactly isn't exactly we're getting like poor assets or anything like that, but it's just a distressed situation, if you like, for Ruben Kazan, and we're able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, that the door was kicked open when sanctions were placed on the clubs. Obviously, Ruben Kazan, I think, are due loan repayments to whatever else, and players like Abelgard want out the club. That was what the Ruben Kazan chief said. So when you've got an unhappy player there, you need to get him out. And I think at this point in time, much like Haskabanovic, that they're just happy to be receiving any sort of fee, which again just shows maybe Celtic's, whether it's their psyche or whatever else in the market. You know that he's already played for the Danish international team, so there must be something about him as a player, and it's probably, to me, Quinny, the final piece of the jigsaw. I was happy if the window closed and we were done. But I think this just adds that wee bit extra that we maybe just needed for the Champions League.
Yeah, and as we look through his profile yesterday, I kind of seen some of the furore around the tweets that were out yesterday about the early speculation, and the guy's getting like no attacking footprint whatsoever, which is brilliant. It's exactly what we need. Somebody that wants to sit back and defend. He gobbles up tackles, interceptions, and defensive and offensive duels for fun. It must be said, but he's got one cap for the national team, right? And he's got a bunch for the under-21s. He's currently 26, right? The year is 2022. He was still picking up under-21 caps 3 years ago. So that kind of strikes me as he's one of these, obviously, for anyone who's not aware, some of these youth clubs, youth national tournaments and whatever, you can bring in one or two over qualifiers as a supplement. So you get some guys that will come in for that. But he really strikes me as a guy that he spent a lot of time in Denmark before going to Russia. He really strikes me as a guy that's a kind of late bloomer, a developer in defensive positions, centre back, defensive mid, goalkeeper, whatever. You know, the better players, the better attributes do tend to come with age. So this guy kind of breaking through in his career, I feel like over the last 2 seasons almost, is I think we're getting a guy in a really good spot. In Russia, he did have a really bad yellow card record and whatever disciplinary record. And it was, I found that quite funny when I seen that, because I was reading quotes from Samuel Gigo at the weekend. He used to play for Moscow. He plays for Marseille now. He gets sent off in his first match back in France, and he was saying, I was in Russia for 4 years and only had one red card. And he's like, in France, it feels like you blow the whistle every 2 minutes. So for him saying Russia's quite lenient on refs, on tackles and stuff, when I seen this guy still had a lot of bookings, I thought, this guy obviously takes no crap. Like, he is just like stopping attacks happening. He's just getting his head and his boots in where it hurts, and making it count that way.
And he's never had Willie Collum probably referee, so that could be quite fun. But yeah, at 26, I think he's, Ange continually talks about signing the right type of player, and again, I don't think this has been one that's been rushed. He's looked at that, and there's a lot of nice wee links with this. Take out the Ruben Kazan link first. Obviously, he's played with Haksabanovic, so knows him well. He's not coming in a stranger. He's played with Carl Starfelt, supposedly at Kazan. They had a very good record together. Obviously, Abelgard had just been sitting in front of a Starfelt, so there's a connection there. He's coming in too with what could possibly be his fellow Danish international and Matt O'Reilly.
Yep.
And another nice wee link is that his agency is a CAA base. Mr. Frank Trimble's agency, Ange's top right hand man at Celtic just now. So,
Okay.
same agency as O'Reilly. So, if any deal, if there's any issues with the deal, I'm sure this was all easily very done. So, yeah, again, I think it's one that we can look at and think Celtic have probably did well to notice this player here and get a deal done, and hopefully we'll see him with the green and white hoop jersey later on today.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. And I think I kind of alluded to this earlier, but if this guy is as good as his profile suggests he is, and how useful he could be for us, it really does throw our midfield up in the air in terms of who plays when and who's the strongest and what do we do in this situation and whatever. And with how good Moy's been, Calmac obviously is reliable as ever, and all the other names that we've already mentioned in midfield, throughout this podcast. I just think with him coming in, like, honestly, like, it's going to be an absolute nightmare picking our team every week for the manager, because so many great options that are so different as well.
Yeah, and that's such a good thing because I think last night was a highlight of how great the Celtic squad is, strength and depth. Can you imagine last season at this point making 9 changes to the starting 11? What kind of players you'd be playing? You'd be bringing in probably boys from the B team to step up. So
Yeah.
it shows how far we've probably come. And if he does come in, hopefully it looks as if he will come in, it would be the ninth signing. Quinny, can you remember as strong a Celtic transfer window as this in your lifetime? Because I don't think I can.
The best transfer window in history. I'll say it now. We've not sold anyone. That's what defines. That's what seals it for me. Like, we've not sold anyone to fund this. Normally, we've sold McGeady, we've sold Van Dijk, we've sold Wanyama, we've sold somebody. We've not sold anyone this time. So it is a resounding victory for me. I think it's the best window ever. No problem.
And I even go back to, and I continually say this, the second season under Brendan, who I know's at this point in time's in very mucky waters just now at Leicester. I saw what he said after the game last night about stability and all this stuff at the club. Celtic's certainly very stable for Ange Postecoglou just now. And compared to his second window at Parkhead, compared to now, I think the only real signing that year was Olivier Ncham. Obviously brought in Johnny Hayes. And might have brought in, I think Scott Bain and Jack Henry came in later on in the January that year.
From Dundee,
We
yeah.
have improved, and we've did so in a manner that's been quite exemplary. I think to look at for seasons to come. I think a lot of that's probably been down to getting that automatic qualification at the group stage of the Champions League, which has let Celtic act quickly, but it's shown to the board that, if you do get your targets in early, you can get the squad settled and it is firing on all cylinders and you've got great strength and depth just now. And I don't think at this point in time I've been as confident heading into a second season with a manager. I think the acid test
Never.
for any manager really is always that second season, and you can't say that, the board haven't given Ange the proper tools to go out and do the business.
Yeah, I've definitely, I totally agree with that. And one thing I was thinking when these Abildgaard links started coming out is, I've not done it yet, I've not done the maths, right? But see whatever the aggregate total is of whatever we've spent over this window, and even if you include like Kyogo and Maeda and whoever else from the last window, like, I can imagine, because Rodgers obviously left under this kind of cloud of, the club don't want to invest and kick on and push in Europe and whatever. See whatever we've spent, I'm just going to guess over these two windows, it's like 30 million or something, right? If we spent 30 million on all these players, 13, 14 of them or whatever, I'm starting to think maybe the conversation was had where, and I'm just totally making this up in my head, right? But like, Rodgers goes and says, I want to rebuild the squad. And they say, right, well, the budget's 30 million over 2 seasons. And he's thinking, because Rodgers wants to spend that on like 3 players. Whereas you get Ange Postecoglou and it's like, we're going to spend 40 million over 30 million over 2 seasons to rebuild the squad. And he goes, brilliant. I'll go and buy 18 guys. 5 of them will be for Japan, and I'll go and get these guys. And, I can work and graft and mold a team, no problem. And, it's because the contrast we've had in the past when we've been spending money, there's been no real confidence and there's no been any real kind of laser focus. Whereas like every one of these pickups, it feels like they just go straight in and we know what they add, and there's just so many good things going around it that equally with all that kind of subcontext on the side of it, that we've managed to rebuild a fantastic team on a relative budget for how much we've spent for the quality we've actually attained. It's I don't think it can be overstated how amazing this window's been.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that Quinn is doing to just spot on recruitment. And I think if you go back to that Rodgers first season, particularly, he was adding to a league title winning team, and what Ronnie Della did there. The core of Brendan Rodgers' team was made up of players that Ronnie had at the club. But I think if you even look at the signings that Brendan made, it was very safe signings to guys that he knew all about. Colo Touré, who I imagine came in big money. He knew Doris de Vries from his time at Swansea. Obviously knew all about Scott Sinclair. He was a cracking player for Celtic. Christian Gamboa, an English Premier League player at the time. There wasn't really, correct me if I'm wrong, any signings from Brendan Rodgers that came from what you would probably say was a good recruitment perspective, as in looking elsewhere. Whereas with Ange, we have scouted the world. It looks like we've used a market that he knew all about, and without him and that expertise, I don't think you would have touched probably the Japanese market. There certainly wasn't any foundations at Celtic that indicated to any of us that there was any interest in the Japanese market. You see us bringing in our first Argentinian player in Alexander Bernabeu, and you're signing here a boy in Oliver Abildgaard that you're looking at a market in Russia just now, but there is an opportunity and you went and took it with Haksabanovic and him. So I think a lot of that is down to the manager's own personality and knowing his knowledge of world football compared to Rodgers.
Yeah, it's definitely been a big difference, and, we did kind of benefit from that with Dyla in a respect as well, guys like Ayer and Johansson, and some of them didn't work out, obviously, like Berget and whoever else. But I think, because that's one of the things that Celtic fans of my kind of generation, I'm sure you will agree with this yourself, Declan, but like, we've always we always kind of look at some of these transfers and sometimes the way the squad sits. I'm like, we should be getting better than this. We are Celtic. We should be able to go into these other countries and get the best players out of them and bring them here. And this is one of the first windows, if not the first window, where we have really kind of flexed our muscles in that sense. And it's not like flexing our muscles and going spending 30 million on a big name player, but it's going and spending 4 or 5 million, half a dozen times on the best player in a category, the up-and-coming fullback in Argentina, the wonder kid from Sweden / Montenegro that's not quite made it yet in his career, etc., etc. Whereas, as I say, guys like Rodgers, it's very safe, right? They would rather buy another 2 Edwards for 20 million rather than go get Kyogo, Maeda, and Jota and Abada and Giakoumakis, and then you've got 2 players, and then if one doesn't work out, one spits the dummy, one sells because he's good, then you've only got one guy, whereas we've got now 6 attackers plus Forrest.
Yeah,
just
no,
mad.
absolutely. Yeah, it's just mad. I think it's just it's real testament to Ange Postecoglou. Probably years down the line, thinking how well did we do under that with the recruitment, because this was a team that was 25 points behind last year going into the season, had to rebuild, and I've did it so quickly and so well, and moved on so quickly, which is important. And you're actually going into the Champions League with a squad that, what I'm trying to say here is there was a great stability at the club. Say when Brendan Rodgers came in, that won the league and blah blah blah. Here, that this was a team that was in its knees last year in terms of what was in the group, and the rebuild's been so quick that I don't think you can praise Ange Postecoglou enough for it. And a big part of that too, Connie, I don't know how much I say probably Lowell Jr. has had in this, but has been shifting the deadwood out the door. It's been really, really
Incredible.
Incredible. And I think whether it's the Celtic scouting team and getting the moves out the door, whether it's Ange or whether it's Mark Lowell doing it, that it just needs to be given praise, because guys like Julian, Bolingoli, Ayeti, all had to go. And possibly, we don't know what James McCarthy's future is going to hold. He's obviously one of the big earners at the club just now. It was important that we got guys out the door for their own sake as well, that weren't going to get football, that were on a big wage, that has allowed us to go and bring in players. Because but I think back to when Neil Lennon actually came in towards the end of that 18-19 season, there was a lot of deadwood in that squad that he had to let go.
Yep.
Times were up as well. And I think you're seeing at this point in time a manager who is ruthless with the squad that he's wanting to build, and having a really tight group of players that he knows that whenever he can turn to them, they're going to be there for him.
Yeah. It's a great squad, top to bottom, for all those reasons and many more. And it's why it's hard to keep the lid on the excitement, And I think getting the deadwood out it almost makes most fans as happy as the incomings, because normally we get saddled with these guys until their contract runs to zero. We get no transfer fee. We've paid their wages the whole way. We've been absolutely screwed over with it. So, like Julian was the one I was the most worried about, because he was on the most money and, has maybe got a shot at thinking to himself, if I stay here all year, maybe I get back in. Whereas our guy, like a Jetty, who's now went to Sturm Graz on loan, like, again, these guys normally get saddled with them for far too long, and it's great to see them all just lickety split. They're all out the door and gone in one way, shape, or form.
I don't know how I could forget Vasilis Barkas in that wee list of names that I mentioned there too.
Barkas,
But
of course.
obviously out on loan, but again off the wage bill, which is important. Today, as we record this, I've not had a wee look at the news there, but supposedly Celtic are open to offers for 4 players. There's a possibility Mikey Johnson could be heading out to Portugal. Just in that, Quinny, do you think that's a kind of a move that will suit him going out there to Portugal? I think that's a league that would certainly suit him, and I think it's very, very important that Johnson goes to a team that are going to be in the front foot a lot of the time. Had he went to somewhere in Scotland like I don't know, a St Johnson for talking stakes, you're maybe going to be in the back foot a lot. I don't think they saw the best out of Mikey Johnson there. So I think a move to a league like Portugal might just suit him well.
Yeah, big time. Like last year, that Victoria team had. I've picked him up already for the fantasy football stuff I do. Mikey Johnson, I think he'll do really well in Portugal. So that team had a guy last year. I think they signed him from Spurs. He was a kind of failed wonder kid type guy. His name's Marcus Edwards. Did really
Oh
well
yeah,
for them, you
I know
know.
you're talking about. Yeah, the winger, the English boy.
And he's now at Sporting Lisbon off the back of
Uh-huh.
playing for them for a season. So it's a great. It might be a no-name club to many Celtic fans. I've actually seen Celtic play this team in a UEFA qualifier back in '99 or back in 2000 or something. I've got the ticket stub somewhere. It's the only reason I remember it. 'Cause it's such an odd name, but it is a no-name team. I do expect him to do well. And if the worst case scenario is we get him back next year and he is like a mini Forrest in the sense of what we spoke about James Forrest being about today, then it's a great year for him to go out and keep progressing and getting better so he can be as useful for us as possible, even if it is eventually if we sell him for a couple of quid.
Yeah, and he needs game time, and again, it's probably a league that's going to suit him. But just the style and whatnot of football, and that's quite nice. I never knew about that, Quinny. That they've got a proven track record of doing that with a player that
Yeah.
is much like Johnson as a wide player. So we'll keep an eye on that one. The other two probably to link in together are Liam Shaw and Scott Robertson. Obviously, both have had loan spells out. We'll come to Shaw first. Quinny, he arrived in at Celtic before Ange Postecoglou was even in the door. He definitely wasn't an Ange signing. He featured in Ange's first pre-season, didn't get any minutes at all in this pre-season, I don't think. And it looks as though probably the time's up for him. It might just be a loan deal, but again, I think it's important for him to go out and play football.
Yeah. I think these guys that are too good, if you like, are their careers too advanced to play B team football. If they're not going to be anywhere near scratching the bench, then yeah, just get them out somewhere. Similar to Mikey Johnson in that respect. We're kind of doing that for the good of the club, I would think, with Mikey, because he is an academy graduate. Whereas some of these other guys that are transferred in, it is just a case of, well, if we've brought you in and we're not going to use you, why keep you? Let's get you back out into the big world, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy to touch on with that, Scott Robertson, as I mentioned there. Again, I think it's, at 21, he's by no means an older player, but he's probably looking, if you bring in Abelgard, he drops in the pecking order even more. And I think for his sake, he needs to go out and play football again. I've actually noticed that he's not even featured in the back of the match programme now, so he just doesn't seem as if he is part of the setup at all at this point, Quinny.
Yeah. And we've been surprised with some of these guys that go on loan. A lot of people will probably forget, but McGregor made his name on loan at Notts County before he even did anything for Celtic. But we've seen that with some other guys that have had decent loan spells and come back. So with a guy like that in a position that I know Abelgard is on his way in, but the only real definitive depth behind him is McCarthy. So if McCarthy moves out and one or two other things happen, then a good loan spell, come back next year. And even Ralston, before Ralston last year, he was totally off the radar, out on loan across the SPL and stuff, So, I've not seen enough I've not seen him play, to be honest with you, so I can't really say much more than that, sorry. But it's sometimes all right to keep something like that close enough.
Yeah, he had obviously that serious injury he got doing at Crewe, which I think probably hampered any game time they got in pre-season for Celtic, so he's been unfortunate with that, but I think for his sake, again, it's important that he plays games. You don't want to just a boy like that just sitting on the bench for you. He needs his games of football. The last one to come on is James McCarthy. Obviously, we've spoken about the big earners at the club. I think, as I say, Abelgard coming in probably means, again, more limited time for McCarthy. He came off the bench last night. It's absolutely fine. But at 31, he might just be looking for a move. But again, the caveat to that might be he's probably always wanted to move to Celtic. We know he's a Celtic fan. His family's up here in Glasgow. He probably doesn't want to keep, chopping and changing around the place, especially at the age of 31.
Yeah, I did hear somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but Aidan McGeady was quoted like a few weeks ago or a month ago saying that he'd spoke to McCarthy and McCarthy was saying, I want to play. I think it was around those Sunderland rumours breaking at the time, whenever that was. But I found it quite funny. I don't know if any Celtic fans caught this, but Edward Michu signed for Sunderland.
Yeah, I noticed that.
See, when I seen that, I again, this might just be something that happened to me, but I was thinking, how does Sunderland sign Michu? And the thought kind of occurred to me, maybe they seen we were about to sign him and sell them James McCarthy. And they've went, hold on a minute, why don't we just go and get this Michu guy rather than James McCarthy? So that's one suitor that's potentially off the table for McCarthy. So I don't really know where he goes because I don't know if anyone else in Scotland is going to take him even on a partial payment for his wages on loan or something.
I think Stoke was a link, and I think that just naturally came about because Alec Neil had him at Hamilton as a boy and knows him, obviously.
Of
Just
course,
went in
he's
there.
just moved. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And again, Misha's an interesting one, obviously former Celtic player and manager Tony Mowbray down there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets
I
it
forgot
on
that.
at Sunderland. But yeah, it's a busy day. Obviously, probably when this goes out, deals and whatnot will be done. We're hoping that Celtic do bring in another player, and we'll see who goes out the door. Um, Overall, though, I think to wrap up the transfers, as you say, it's been an excellent window for incomings and outgoings, and I think Celtic's in a very good, strong position going into the month of September and beyond, but before the next transfer window, and we'll see how we get on in the Champions League. Before we come to the Champions League, we have a small matter of the Glasgow Derby game at the weekend. Both sides, I think looking at this again, it's Rangers fans have been obviously for the first two Derby games last season. There was no away fans in at all. With the reduced allocation, the clubs probably look at it as 6 pointers each. But Celtic proved that last season that it's not the case when we went to Ibrox and won 2-1. But it's going to be an interesting game. This will be the first time we've played Rangers, obviously, since that game in May. They had to come to Celtic Park and win the game to kind of dampen any hopes of a Celtic title. Didn't manage to get the job done. Celtic get the better of Rangers in the league fixtures last season. But I think both teams, there's not a lot between them. I think, again, it's going to be a very tight game. But, I think with the start that Celtic's made, I fancy Celtic to win this one.
Rangers are a really tough team to like, even for neutrals. Like, see, even like any of these good results they've had over the last, let's say, 6 months or whatever, they're not, you know, it's hard to say in from mouths to sound like sour grapes, right? But they deal more in accidents. They deal more in happenstance than they do. Like, if you watch our games and the way we're scoring goals, we are forcing things to happen. We're creating things. We're forcing the opposition to make mistakes, and we're using talent and quality to pass and shoot and make things happen. But they have actually, as I kind of look at the Rangers team coming into this game, like it's definitely the strongest it's been in recent years. I don't think there's any question about that. I think this Kollak guy looks way better than Morelos, who is a meme
Yeah, I
at
would
this
agree.
point. So I think he's actually worth worrying about a bit. Same with Tillman. I think he shows, a Bayern Munich kid is always going to be of a standard. But these guys and some of the other guys that are maybe impressing for them, recently, like at Celtic Park in this game, like I just don't think they're, it's not the game. Depending on the referee, we'll see what happens, but it's not the game where they're going to get that lucky bounce of the ball or those freak occurrence decisions. Because again, when I'm looking at this match and I'm trying to forecast how well we'll do and think about it, I can't see us not scoring 2 goals a half, with the 15, 16 players that we're going to be playing in this game. And, I just think we've got so much up front and with their defence. Like, I don't even know if Ben Davies is back. They're still going to be playing Sands or what's going on. But between that, McLaughlin, I think Glenn Kamara's been linked away to Nice today. They've just sold Mario Lemina to Valencia. So, like, I just think we're too good, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a great game. It's going to be great that their fans are in for the atmosphere and the occasion and whatever. Like, we kind of like that pantomime that we get in the stadium. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great game, and it's Saturday at 12:30 as well. Like, I don't remember the last time I think maybe I had one of them last year, but it is quite an unusual time for this fixture. So all the cameras are on.
Yeah, all the cameras will be on. I'm looking forward to go into the game. But as well as that, Quinn, I think even early on in the season, this is a good chance for Celtic to just put a wee bit of breathing space between them. Obviously, Rangers are our nearest challengers. We're already 2 points ahead of them. A victory at the weekend would make us go 5 points in front, which is a nice wee gap to pull away. Ange Postecoglou obviously said last season, Scotland, I think that was October time, you don't get a trophy for being at the top of the table in October. We know that, but I think it's just nice to have that wee bit of breathing space at the top. It lets the Celtic support sing that Carpenter's hit song too. And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. In terms of the team, do you make many changes from the team that absolutely hammered Dundee United 9-0?
The only question mark I've got, right? So I was on, but before talking, I was on. Starfelt will come back, and Starfelt will be ready for the Rangers game. That's what the manager wants to do, right? And then me and you were speaking about Jens. It must have been about a fortnight ago. And then I was converted. I'm like, no, Jens is the man. Jens will be in, and then obviously Starfelt is kind of get back in
Came
until
back.
that rotation match. But I think Jens looked amazing last night. And I know it was a rotated team and whatever, but I didn't see him miss a beat from when he last started. And I know he's played Ross County already, so maybe it's familiar ground for him. But I think that's the main question mark, because Jens hasn't played him on these matches, so I would lean for Starfelt, and I would just go for the Starfelt and then the team everyone else thinks is going to play. Maeda up front over Abada probably is the only other question mark I would go with Maeda. But yeah, I think Jens is maybe the only one that has a real shot of maybe coming in.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
well, I'm going to say that, I think I've been proven wrong when I said the other week that, had Gents kept in there, I'd imagine, but I think with Starfelt coming against Dundee United, they might just go for Carl Starfelt. He's obviously played
yeah,
in this fixture. He's played very well in this fixture last season. For some of the Celtic fans who still give him stick, I thought he was excellent at Ibrox in that 2-1 victory. And I think just that partnership, and again, there's going to be a lot of players playing for Rangers that haven't played in this fixture, which is going to be in Celtic's benefit at Celtic Park, obviously.
yep.
I would stick with the centre half pair that you know well to do the job. Obviously, Juranovic and Taylor either side of him. Midfield for me picks at Selby, McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly. I think Rangers found that very hard to cope with in the 3-0 game in February. And I think that's the midfield I would go with. And then up top, I think Abada, I think this is going to be a really hard one because Abada, obviously coming off the back of the hat trick, plays up in Dingwall, played really well last night. Made a getting his goal. I don't know. I think it might just suit Ange more in a game like this to have that flexibility to switch the wingers round because you're going to get joy down both flanks over Barisic and Tavernier. So to possibly play Maeda. But listen, but whatever team you play, you're going to have that flexibility also to bring guys off the bench, whether it's Giacomakis, Abada, Maeda, Moy, whoever else off the bench, even maybe Haksabanovic possibly. So you've got plenty of options. But again, I think every Celtic fan and their granny's very confident that, whatever team Ange Postecoglou picks, he'll think is the best suited team to go out and deliver a result for Celtic at the weekend. So one to look forward to, and to kind of close, we won't be on before, but we take on the European champions. It seems kind of crazy this, Quinny, because obviously we've been on in the build up talking to teams.
Yeah.
You did the reaction pod after the draw, and the game is already here so quickly around. This is going to be some buzz for this game. I've seen Celtic take on Barcelona, AC Milan, blah 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 at Celtic Park, but this one feels just really exciting. It's European champions in town. We know all about Madrid's European history. They're the all-time record winners of the competition. They've not visited Celtic Park since 1980. If we could repeat a 2-0 scoreline like so when George McCluskey and Johnny Doyle scored the goals, I'd be very happy.
I'd be very happy as well. I do think they will take this match quite seriously, to be honest, because it is the opening game. And, I think at the weekend they've actually got a relatively tough fixture. I forget who it is off the top of my head, but I don't think they've got an easy game this weekend themselves. But, it's going to be a great game. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it is one of these games where we can just enjoy the occasion for the most part of it, as long as we do.
Betis at the Bernabeu.
Yeah, so a tough game against the old engineer himself, but I think they'll be coming. Ancelotti's been here before. I don't think any of the players have. No. I was actually thinking about this when we got the draw. We had Rennes when Camavinga was breaking through, but I don't think I made it to the Rennes match at home. Obviously, I didn't go away, but I don't think he ever made it into the squads. I don't think any of these players have played here before, so I think they'll all be quite excited to come here, and for them it will be like, oh, we're going to one of these big grounds around Europe, because that's what we are to them, if that makes sense. But it'll be a great game to enjoy the occasion. And as long as, we turn up and we play football the Celtic way, the Ange way that we've been doing, then I see us scoring a goal or two. And if we do, then, the match gets fun and interesting. And who knows what could happen on a magical night under the disco lights,
Yeah, there's no reason why not. Magical night under the disco lights, indeed. There's no reason why not. We can't create a special night at Celtic Park. And again, I think that's something that, going off the back of Ange's open goal interview talking about Celtic being a Champions League club, and they can compete and have a good go in years to come beyond when he's away from the football club, that I think a big part of that is going to be making Celtic Park a fortress once again in the Champions League, which is something that'd be great to kick off against Real Madrid. Anything against Madrid, I think points wise is going to be a bonus for us. But like you, I think they'll take it very seriously. Like us, Celtic will show them respect, as I think they will show Celtic respect, and it should hopefully be an exciting game of football. But again, as you say, I think with the expansive way and the attacking way that Ange likes to play football, we ain't going to be too respectful to Real Madrid, and there's no reason why we can't score
No.
against them.
No, definitely not. Like, you know, they've got a good defence. Courtois is a great keeper and all the rest of it, but they have had a good bit of change in that area over the summer, you know, with Rudiger coming in and, you know, a few other different spots. The midfield's really exciting for them at the moment, you know, with Tchouameni and Camavinga have basically played every game so far, and guys like Kroos and Modric are rotating on minutes, who are like Hall of Fame, all-time great, world best ever players, you
Absolutely.
know. So it'll be a real test. And I think, you know, as soon as the draw get made, we played Dundee United and you just felt that electricity. Everyone was just like, yes, man, this is it. Champions League's coming, Real Madrid's coming. And I think we're going to, again, that's why I said earlier on with the Rangers, I can't see us not scoring a goal or two in the first half quite quickly, because that's just the way we play. And then in the second half, where all the ammo we've got to come off the bench and keep the firepower going, again, I don't see us changing that, like you said, for Real Madrid. So I see us scoring a goal or two. And if we get a couple, then, you know, results are there to be had.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we'll see how it goes. It's one to really be excited about. We'll be here next week, probably after the game, talking about what's happened. What we'll see, what transfers come in. Thanks to our listeners as usual, wherever you're listening, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or whatnot. Do remember, if you're watching on YouTube, to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can see down the ticker tape down the bottom that if you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can win a signed Ange Postecoglou print. Quinny, as always, thank you for joining me in this Seltzer here bulletin. We will be back
Pleasure.
after the deadline day is done and after the first derby and Champions League game probably of the season. Thanks for listening.